Thanks for sharing your message in the Eden on EOS Telegram group. I checked out your work with fractal circles and it looks awesome. It looks super exciting. So I'm really excited to learn more about it. And thanks so much for pioneering and doing all that work so far. I'm excited to speak with you and then see how we can collaborate. And yeah, thanks for also accepting. Sorry it took me a while to get back to you, as I said, but I'm glad that we finally connected and excited for our discussion.
Yeah, great. So actually, I don't know a lot about you and your position in this project. So if you like, you maybe you can start introducing yourself and the project as well. Yes, so I know a little bit about your background.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I'm happy to share about me and the projects I'm working on. So yeah, I'm Dan Singjoy, and I'm curious, by the way. At some point, I'd like to ask you how familiar you are with Eden on EOS and Fractally and Eden Fractally. If you are familiar with these things, I know you posted in the Eden on EOS chat, but I didn't see you in the other
Mm,
groups, and a lot of it's very related, or it seems very related to what you've been working on with fractal circles. There's a lot of overlap and synergies there. I've been, well, I've been, I have a background in all sorts of different stuff, like creative stuff. I'm a musician and a creator, and then I got really interested in EOS and Web3 about 5 years ago when EOS launching, and then about 2 years ago, Dan Larimer, who is one of the main engineers and creators of EOS, he created something called Eden on EOS, which is the group where you messaged in and that I messaged you back in. And that is a group that does elections every quarter, fractal process.
yeah.
And so I've been participating in that for the past 2 years. And then I also started participating. Dan Larmer's next project was called Fractally, which is a similar variant of that, but has a bunch of unique differences. So I started participating in the first and all the different fractal meetings that the Fractally team was hosting back about a year and a half ago. And then about a year ago, I founded the Eden Fractal, which is kind of combining what we're doing with the Eden on EOS community with the Fractally process. And I've been hosting those meetings for the past year and also moderating them. And then that's mostly what I'm focusing on, as well as the Eden Fractal. Also working on several other fractal communities. Like there's a game called Alien Worlds that's fairly closely related to EOS that I've been working on. We did a trial a while ago and working on starting up another kind of fractal meeting and fractal community there. And there's several other ones like an art fractal and a kind of like a personal development fractal like that. So I've been really excited about these fractal cooperative processes, and I've been identifying them and thinking that as consensus games. I guess games where people come together and they play games that help people cooperate, and they're fun and they're rewarding. And I think I think you're familiar with many of the benefits of these kinds of fractal systems already.
Hmm.
Very interested
Hmm.
to hear your thoughts. But yeah, basically, I've been focusing for the past couple of years, like this has been my main focus with these fractal processes, and especially over the past year, hosting and then also building the tools, helping to build the tools, working with developers and working with community members and designing the systems and designing the games where we cooperate from meeting to meeting in the Eden Fractal meeting as well as the other meetings. So that's kind of a high level overview. I also have a kind of a media outlet called Eden Creators, where I've been producing content related to fractal cooperation, consensus games, and so forth. I publish the video from each Eden Fractal meeting, and I often write show notes, like a little report about what happened in the most recent meeting. And then I also publish several other different kinds of shows where I do either interviews or just like short clips, something like that, to explain some of the stuff that we're building and talk with people who are
Mm.
building in this space as well. So, in addition to the hosting the events and building the tools and stuff, I'm also making media, and I have a website, edencreators.com, where I'm writing a bunch of articles to help guide the progress and help contribute to the development as well.
Mhm. So it seems that you have your hands quite full with this project. It's nice to hear, really.
Are you familiar with Fractally?
I have just looked through it very briefly, I must say, to start with. But everything I did read about the project, I'm really intrigued that it's so much in common with my own thoughts on the subject and with the working with fractal. But I don't know details, and I would like to go deeper in that in a minute. I'm really fascinated by the way that you're using the fractals, because I went to the different approach, kind of trying to implement it straight away in real communities, organization, and such, and I had little progress with that actually, but to use it in this kind of game setting and to play around with it for fun, I can really see how that is good for evolving the process and to experiment and to also get people who are actually thrilled and excited about using it for, yeah, it's just a pleasure of gaming. Because what I've noticed mostly when I'm using this, I've been focusing mostly on like a political philosophy to create new ways of government, so the governance that are more democratic, so to speak. And the problem I have is when I invite people, nobody really wants to come because it takes just a lot of effort, and people don't know what it is. They don't want to invest their time in sitting in long meetings, and everybody has such a bad um, uh, oh yeah, meetings in general. Nobody wants to be in a meeting where everybody just talks and talks, and that's basically what Fractal is all about, for me at least. That you don't need to talk forever with everybody. You actually just have uh, your part of the Fractal where you need to engage, which is well, it's really the thing about it. So I'm interested. You said something about some process where you gave respect or something. Would you like to elaborate what this is? Because I don't really know about this process.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, thanks for sharing the context about your journey and your work so far. It's very interested and very interesting, and I'm very interested to learn more about your experience and your vision and all that too. But I'm also happy to answer because, well, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're both excited about that I'm excited to explore with you. But yeah. So, well, first of all, I'll also say, as far as like the democratic process and thinking about like that, like that's also kind of how we started with it too. Like a lot of what Eden is doing, it's based upon a book that Dan Larimer wrote called More Equal Animals, where he wrote about it. It's called A Subtle Art to True Democracy. And he's working on making a more democratic system that can help people cooperate more fairly and with all sorts of benefits that currently aren't in more legacy systems. And then that's been a consistent theme around Eden for a while. And then just more recently, over the past 6 months or so, I've been thinking about, or I mean, I've been thinking about it for a long time about how it is kind of like a game as well. Um, and I enjoy that aspect. You get to meet new people and you get to go on video call. You have this kind of game asset where people are trying to reach consensus and people get rewards and stuff. So, but then, yeah, especially over the past 6 months or years or so, and also working with the alien worlds, we've been thinking about it a lot more in terms of games, which is a great way to invite more people. It speaks more to the playful aspect of it. People enjoy playing games, and so it can be kind of a more lighthearted thing. And then over time, you can also get across like the more serious aspects about how it's helpful for everybody and stuff like that. So I find that's a good way to communicate and do it in a fun way. And then yeah, as far as respect, so what we're doing at Eden Fractal, and what we also did with we did it with a community called the Genesis Fractal that worked with the Fractally team, and we're also building with Alien Worlds Fractal and several other communities. But a lot of what we're doing is inspired by the team, the Fractally team. They have a website at fractally.com, which I think that you've maybe checked out a little bit, and I can send you links to all these things if you'd like as well. But yeah, they have in their keynote and their white paper and then their blogs and stuff, they describe the idea of respect and giving respect. And basically, the core idea about giving respect, or I mean, there's lots of different ways you can look at it, but the way it works is like we're playing a game, basically a game where we give each other respect. So we go into breakout rooms. It can be any group size. Typically, Eden Fractal meetings, we have about 15 people or so, but these are systems that can be built. I was just reading some of your Fractal Circles blog before, and you're talking about how, because it's fractal, you could have, say, 15,000 people in one community, but you can have it where it's going into fractals where groups of 5 or 6 or whatever, breaking out, and so forth. But yeah, so far it's been relatively small, where we have an average of maybe 15 or 20 people coming. But we also have the Eden elections, which have been bigger. But basically, the way it works is we go into breakout rooms and we spend like an hour in breakout rooms or so, and then each person will share what they're doing to help the community. for about 3 or 5 minutes. And that can also be flexible. Like if there was some different goal or prompt, then there could be. But our prompt has basically been, what are you doing to help the community? And then people will share what they did for 3 or 5 minutes. They say, oh, I built this tool, or oh, I invited my friend. But yeah, people share what they're doing if they've been working on making an article or a video or inviting people or whatever it may be to help, or they're just learning. And then after everybody shares what they're doing for 20 minutes or so in total. So yeah, basically the respect and the idea of it is we play that game. People share their contributions 3 or 5 minutes or so, and then everybody who's in that breakout group has to come to consensus, or has to come to at least a supermajority consensus, like 67% of the people in the room come to consensus about the relative rankings of how much each person helped the community in that meeting.
Yeah.
So
All of the
we have,
people, you're ranking all of them. Oh, yeah.
yes, yeah. So say if there's 6 people in the breakout room, then first we say, okay, who did the most to help the community this week or recently? And then they get level 6. And so we have a poll. We have an app that works with Telegram where people can vote in polls. And then basically, once you come to consensus, when 4 to 6 or 4 to 5 people agree that that person did the most, they deserve level 6. Then you do the same thing for level 5. Okay, who did the second most? And then you do that. Once you come to consensus for level 5, you do level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1. And then each person gets a different amount of respect based upon how much they help the community. And that respect is also represented on blockchains as a token. So people can earn, and the Eden Fractal we also give out a bit of EOS, which has a bit of monetary value, but it's not like a big prize, but it's got the potential where people could earn, and like this could be a way that people could earn and communities could really cooperate at a large scale. But for right now, we've just been doing it with a respect token, which is just a non-transferable thing, but we call it respect. So it's like when you do more, you earn more respect from the community. And then you do that every week. People share what they did each week. And then people keep coming to consensus about that. And over time, you see, okay, this person's been doing a lot, that person's been doing a lot. You could see how much people are respected by the community. And that also gives you kind of like, and that gives you like respect points. And you can do lots of stuff with that too. Like that could potentially be used in voting for topics or whatever as well, depending on how much respect they've earned and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So in a way, they also accumulate respect. So, and that gives them some kind of leverage in different decisions making as well.
Yep. So people accumulate respect. So, for example, Eden Fractal, we've been doing it for, we're at to have our 52nd meeting in a couple of days. So our 1 year, and people have earned respect each week. People who have joined each week and contribute a lot have a lot more respect than somebody who just joined every once in a while. And then we're building the systems, and we have a system. Well, in the Eden Fractal, we have it where we kind of play 2 different consensus games each week. So one, it's that respect game, and then also in that same respect game, we also elect a delegate too, and that delegate helps make community decisions. And then we have another game after that we call agendas, which is like community agendas, where people can propose topics and then people can vote on what topics they want to discuss. And we have it where people can use the respect that they've earned to vote on topics they want to discuss. So you could use it for other purposes as well. And once you have that respect point, you can engineer any kind of system that uses that in some way. And we've done it so far where people can use their respect points to vote for topics that they want to discuss.
Something that 2 things come to mind. First of all, when you do the respect game, for example, when you voted in the first group, do you choose a representative to then continue in the next level also to order the respect in a higher level?
So, I don't mean to interrupt you if you want to keep going, but just to answer that, at some point in the future, we would have second levels, but so far, because we've only had like 15 people or 20, the most we've had is 30 people at the Eden Fractal, and the most that the Genesis Fractal had was like 40 or 50 people. In the Genesis Fractal, we experimented with having 2 different rounds for the first time. And the idea is if we have hundreds or thousands of people, then there could be multiple levels. So people who just got the top rank or top 3 or whatever can go to the next round. But the way we've been doing it, because the community has been relatively smaller, we've just been doing 1 round each week. But as we grow, we can do more rounds.
Well, could be interesting to just split it into the group and do 2 rounds just to practice that and see the benefit. I personally, as you might know from what my writing, I recommend a size of between 5 and 7 in each circle, just to make the rounds very fast and efficient. Could be interesting. I had another. The other thing is with the respect. I use a similar method, and what I call just to delegate trust. That you have your meetings, your Zoom calls, and you rank people according to the trust they have. And basically, obviously, they get trust depending on how much they contributed, obviously, to the project at hand. So it's kind of similar. Basically, we do that to create then more or less a hierarchy or a structure of who will. It's more like a decision structure that is ongoing until next meeting. So in the same way, the one who are in the top has more to say about things in the current project. So that's very similar, but it's something that I am a bit worried about. And I'm interested to see how you can solve that. Is that if you gain trust and that's accumulative, then I see a risk of people joining early on to gather a lot of respect and maybe come into a position where they actually can change the rules of the game to make it easier for them to remain in power in some way. Do you understand the problem that could arise?
Yes. So, well, yeah, thanks for explaining your work with trust, and I'm so interested to learn more. And I'll also just just provide a bit more clarity about how it works with our
Yeah,
processes. So, we've thought about this a lot. There's multiple different ways to do it. So, for one thing, one way that we've thought about a lot is just having respect over the past, say, 12 weeks counted. So it's not, people who joined a year ago and haven't joined again for the past 6 months who have all the decision-making power, but you could have it just where it's the people who have earned the most respect over the past 12 weeks have more decision-making power. And so that makes it so people have to participate often. And then another thing that we have too, which I mentioned briefly, is we have a system whereby in the breakout rooms, we're both allocating respect 1 through 6, and we're also picking a delegate too. And so in the Eden Fractal meetings, we have it where people can vote to prioritize topics with their respect. But as far as making decisions on proposals and stuff like that, like people can make proposals, but we have it where those delegates are making proposals. So we have a process that we call Eden plus Fractal process, and perhaps I'll just share my screen briefly just to show how it works a little bit. So yeah, this is page edencreators.com/Eden plus Fractal where I kind of curated it. We've been doing this for the past 30 weeks or so. This is created by one of the developers in the community named Das, and there's lots of details about it here, and I can send you a link so you can read it later if you'd like. But basically the way it works is, and there's lots more details, but we have it where each breakout room elects a delegate, and then the delegates from all the breakout rooms in each week form a council, and then we have it where the councils form, delegates serve for 4 weeks basically, and then to pass a proposal, we have it where 3 out of 4 active councils approve. And so it's not the people who have the respect who are voting on proposals, they're just voting on to prioritize topics. And it's actually the people who are elected delegates. And so in that sense, even if somebody's been around for a year, and they have a lot of respect, if they're not elected as a delegate, then they wouldn't have decision-making power other than just prioritizing topics in the system. Of course, these are all flexible, and so it could be designed differently, but and that's how we've been doing it so far here in Eden Fractal.
How many people have you joined for this kind of meeting? How many different groups have you managed to get at most, more or less? Or how many people have participated?
So the Eden Fractal community, there's been about 75 people who have joined in total over the past year. And on average, there's about 15 people who join each meeting. There's usually a mix, some regulars and some people who join every once in a while and some new people every once in a while. The Alien Worlds Fractal, and when we did the trial last year, there was 40 people who joined, average 10 people. And we're planning to grow that a lot because there's hundreds of thousands of players in Alien Worlds. So we think it's a big growth opportunity. A lot of it, we've been kind of purposely not trying to promote it too much because we've been trying to refine the systems without having a huge amount of people there. And then also Eden on EOS, there's 450 people in there, and Eden on EOS doesn't use the whole respect system. It has a different kind of fractal cooperative system. At most, there's been elections with about 150 or 200 people there, and the most recent election had 70 people or so.
Yeah, then you obviously use the different layers to accommodate all the groups, or
So Eden on EOS, when there has been 200 people or 60 people, what we've had is basically 2 rounds or 3 rounds,
Mm,
or yeah, 2 rounds. And so people have a first round of breakout rooms with about 6 people, and then whoever gets elected as a delegate in
yeah,
those goes to the second round. And so we have it where people can become a delegate. We call it layer one delegate. If they just get
yeah.
elected as the first delegate, they get some funding for being able to do that, and then they go with the all the other delegates in the next breakout room, and then they can get elected as chief delegate, and they get more funding and decision making power. Hypothetically, if we had, I don't know, 1,000 people, then we can do 3 rounds, but 2 rounds is the most we've done so far.
Mm. Yeah, it's it's so nice to listen to. It's like, uh, well, basically, I used to discover this myself, or just made my own system, and I've been using it in my own. Just because I have a background in political activism in Sweden. And so I was gathering a lot of people, trying to organize these people, and I just discovered that it was very difficult to organize people in general. So that's why I kind of was thinking a lot about how to optimize it, because I have a background as a programmer also, and optimizing uh, code. This was a hobby of mine, to try to optimize things in general. So using that skill set, it was kind of obvious that making these fractals for large groups of people is it's the optimal way for speed and efficiency to make decisions, basically. So that's really how I develop my ideas, but they haven't really caught on a lot, because I'm not really so active in large groups. So I've been using it for my own purpose, basically, but I've been always trying to find other people to introduce these ideas so they also can use it, because it's possible to use this structure for any decision making whatsoever, for any amount of people, especially when it's a larger group, obviously. Um, so it's so fun, and the similarities of the system is so close. So it's like this idea is obviously it's just breaking, and I think I think we will see all kinds of different projects developing this method side by side, and the similarities are so big, because I don't call it delegates, I call it representatives, and I call it representatives of the first degree or the second degree or the third degree, depending on what level and such. But anyway, it's so similar. So actually, the biggest circles I've made is actually in live, because we were doing or live. We were doing activism in Portugal, actually, over the last about 3 years ago. We got together like 30 people in a village, because there was a problem there at the moment. I will not go into politics, but anyway, we wanted to organize a demonstration, and we were about 30 people sitting on a lawn outside, well, in the on the town square, and we were just going into groups about 5 people each, 5, 6 people, and within a very short time, we managed to organize this hierarchy of trust, and to make then a little group of organizers to decide what and when, and what the message of our demonstration would be, and the dates, and design flyers and everything. It was done so fast. It was done in maybe a couple of weeks, and we had the whole village behind us suddenly, and we did a pretty large demonstration for this village, because it's a tiny village. I was living for some years in Portugal. So that's actually where I got the most use of this process myself. But it was also very nice to see that this is not a system that is connected to the online sphere. You don't need to be online to use this fractal. It's very efficient actually to use it. You can use it to, just large gatherings of people outside. You can use this method, and in a very brief time, with just a few rounds, you can have come to a consensus among hundreds of people. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I'm also thrilled to hear from you too. It's like it's all music to my ears, and I'm so excited. I agree that all communities can benefit from this, both on the internet and locally, and that's like pretty much my main goal in life, and the main thing I'm working towards now, because I see all the potential for this to help, participating in over the past couple years has been amazing. I met a lot of amazing people, a lot of people who I consider to be some of my best friends now, and like people who are doing amazing work, and we're getting stuff done together. It's incentivizing, really helpful public goods like building open source code and making shows together and all sorts of great stuff. And then I can imagine all the potential for so many communities of all kinds to benefit from this. And it's really inspiring to hear about your story and your work. That's really cool about your work in Portugal. I'd be happy to hear more about that. I'm very interested. I read most of the blog posts on the fractalcircles.org and also watched your videos. I'm interested to learn more too. So if you want to describe more about your work, I'd be happy to. It seems like, I know you said, I think you said you've been working on it for the past 10 years or so. So it's really cool that you've been thinking about it for so long too. I mean, I only really became aware of this basically 2 years ago. It was basically a bit over 2 years ago. And it's from Dan Larimer, who had proposed it. And prior to that, I'd never heard of it before. But then once I heard it, I was like, oh, that's amazing. But it sounds like you've been working on it and thinking about this for much longer. So that's really cool, and cool to hear how you came to it from a kind of a political activism background. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear. I mean, if you have any more questions for me, I'm sure you probably do at some point or anything like that. I'd be happy to answer more questions or discuss. And I'm also very interested to learn more about your work. And if you want to share any more details about how you were inspired to something with this and how it's been so far for you. And also, I'm curious what your next steps are and plans and how I can help and how we can best collaborate. So I'm just
Yeah,
kind of laying a bunch of different options. We can also discuss this in
yeah,
the future too, because there's a lot here, but there's just so much to discuss. So yeah, what do you think is best to focus on? Do you want to share more about your work with fractal circles and how you came to it and what you're aiming to do, or whatever else? What do you think would be most interesting to focus on?
yeah. I will just speak from my heart and say what I want to get out of this actually. One thing that I'm quite excited about, just from my experience of having quite a difficulty to get people involved in the online circles. Like doing it in real life, it's much more easy for people, but doing it online has been difficult. And I've been thinking a lot about just having a reward system also for this, that let's say everybody, somehow you chip in, everybody give a bit of a stake, and the ones who yeah, who gain the most respect, for example, and start to get a little bit of money. So that in a way get people a bit more interested maybe on participating. And also I see a very good possibility also if you have a blockchain, or you can make your own credits or coins or whatever. You can just mine. This is how I think a perfect uh, cryptocurrency would work, that the mining process is actually just joining the meeting. When you join a meeting, then one coin is mined for every meeting you join, basically. And if you join several meetings in a higher level, obviously you get the more coins. And in this kind of system, that could really inspire people to actually be part of the decision making. And yeah, I see a lot of possibilities there, especially in these game scenarios. Maybe you can make a game and you get some, yeah, you can get some ore in the game if you join the meeting or whatever. And I see a lot of potential with the experimenting and make this a very, very simple process to work with these fractals. So I just wanted to say that. And then, well, I would basically, my situation is like this. I have a lot of ideas. Obviously, I have ideas for how to create a better society. And I think the fractal decision making, actually decision making is the core of any kind of society. So we need to have a good process, and the fractal system is really, really good in that sense. And from that, I see so many ways that we can use it. And number one, I am really interested in using the fractal system to actually make a news system, to make an alternative media that is actually run fractally. So instead of voting on topics, you basically vote on what kind of news stories that are interesting. And I see that as a project I want to focus on next, to make this kind of, and it's like basically it's like TikTok or something like that. You have this app and you're just scrolling through and watching new videos, but instead of just watching what TikTok thinks you should watch by their algorithm, and in a way, like the media is controlling the minds of people by just feeding you information that you might not really need, that might not help you. So making a totally decentralized alternative media driven by this fractal system, I think that could be a really revolutionary thing for people that were more normal people or whatever, people who are not used to kind of dig through the alternative media because it's a big job, can actually easier get access to this to the most important information of these times, because information is getting more and more censored on the big channels like YouTube, whatever. It's hard work to get real news. So I think that is really where I would like to work, and basically I want to offer all my knowledge and my ideas just to you and to people within this community, because you actually managed to build a community, and I've been doing this for 10 years, but I have not built any community at all. It's just me and my project that I actually go around Sweden and have workshops and make lectures about fractal systems to local groups, trying to get them to work with these things for their own kind of small organization and such. But yeah, well, I've been doing my job, but I haven't really come forward so long. So I'm really excited to see where I can fit in your puzzle and maybe contribute to. Well, it's a mutual contribution, of course, but I really long to be part of this kind of community where we can help each other to make this new technology available.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mikael. That is super inspiring, and yeah, I'm I mean, super inspiring, and thank you for being interested in, I think you said fitting in my puzzle and helping. And then I'm also very happy to fit into your puzzle and help however I can too. I'm really excited to collaborate with you. And yeah, it's super cool. I'll just say first too, I mean, I'll respond to what you said there, but as I was reading the stuff that you were posting, and again, my apologies, 'cause it took me like a month to get back because it's been like a super crazy busy trying to host these meetings and everything like that. And so I'm working like 16-hour days constantly, and it's currently not well funded. So it's like I have a lot of stuff going on. And so I really wanted to reach out to you right away because when I saw you posted it, I was like, is this for real? This guy, Mikhail, he's posting something that's so similar to what we're doing. And it's like, it's amazing. I was like, this is so cool and so weird that you've been doing this for so long and we just never knew it. And so I just want to put that out there. Like, I'm really excited what you're doing. I'm really excited to help you, and I think it's fantastic, incredible that you're working on this stuff. And so, and I wrote that it was like a delightful surprise because it was like just reading and watching your videos. It's like this is exactly, or not exactly what we're doing. I mean, you have lots of different designs that are very interesting, and I'm looking forward to learning about. You mentioned like alternative media, fractals and stuff, and I checked out your projects with Fractal Meet and Team Goal and Wake Woke and stuff. So I'm interested to learn about these, and some of these seem quite similar to what we're doing, and some of them have all sorts of new features I never thought about. But yeah, I want to throw that out there. So it was like it was kind of mind blowing how similar and how aligned we are when I first read it and saw it. So really excited about that. And then yeah, very happy to see how we can collaborate. As far as the alternative like media fractal, like a decentralized media service, I think that's excellent, and I'm totally aligned. Interested to learn more about your plans with Wake Woke and Fractal Meet, which seems like they might be kind of focused on that kind of thing. Also, the Fractally white paper has plans for building decentralized social media. So there's like a quite interesting blueprint there that I've been thinking about for a long time. Still not built yet, but they've been building in the Fractally team. And several people in the community, in the Eden Fractal community, are building similar tools. Like this guy named Perry, who's building a site called D News, and he's hoping it's like an aggregator. It's very interesting. He's made several proposals to the Eden Fractal community for the Eden Fractal community to curate the news feed. So we can talk about that. Also, there's an application on EOS called BBS, which is like a kind of like Reddit, but it's built with Web3 infrastructure. I actually been building a site there called edentalk.com that Well, BBS has been building for a while. They have some really interesting tools built by some great builders. And Eden Talk, I kind of launched like a beta of it or a pilot. It hasn't really gone much anywhere, but happy to discuss it. And I think that there's exciting potential there. There's also Bywire DAO. He's another person in the community who's building decentralized social media things with this kind of thing in mind. And Thiago Reed, these are just some names that probably don't mean anything to you right now, but happy to share more details. But these are things that are like active decentralized media projects by people who are interested in similar goals. So happy to share links with you and discuss and connect with you, those people. I'm totally aligned with using these ideas about fractals to create a better society. And it seems like you have a abundance of helpful ideas. So I'm very interested in learning more of your ideas as well as helping to promote it. And I'm sure we can find lots of synergies with the ideas that you've had so far, as well as the ideas that I've had and many other people in the community have had. And then I suppose the last thing I'll say on this note in response to what you're saying is you're mentioning like rewards and like a mining process. Well, a couple just minor details responses here. One, I agree. Like I'm working on making it simple. Like we're working on making very simple welcome guides, trying to gamify it so it's like really fun. People can just join without having to learn much. We've also been going through that same process because we want to grow the community as well. And it's been great that we have a community of many active people, but we want to grow it so everybody can enjoy these. So we have lots of plans to make it simple and everybody can enjoy it. And as far as the rewards, like we do have a lot of great tools built already too, which you're welcome to use. They're all open source too. So if you want to try sharing these as well with your contacts in Sweden or Portugal or wherever, these are open source tools that might be very helpful for you as well. For example, you mentioned distribution funding. So we have those tools. We've been cooperating with them for the past year or so. We've had a basic smart contract that's built on EOS and Antelope blockchains that distributes both the respect, which is a token, and well, first off, you mentioned having a mining process where people are earning by joining the events and playing the game, which I completely agree. I think that's like an ideal way to have a mining of a currency. And that was one of the original visions. Kind of like how in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, like internet really came online, and then it went from just a few websites here and there to like every business had a website, and there's millions and millions of businesses. And I think that similar thing will happen, and fractals enable that basically, where each community can have their own token and currency. And then depending on if people think that community is doing helpful work, then people can invest in the token or participate with that token. Like I think that's ideal. Like for example, I'm a musician, I come from a musical background, and that's one of the reasons why I got so excited about this, because I thought, how could I incentivize and inspire fans who are watching on Twitch or watching live streams or other musicians and so forth to collaborate. And it's like, if there was a token that that band community can have, that music community could have, then people could be inspired and incentivized and rewarded for helping with that band and making art or making music or whatever. And then people could also invest in it to be able to share in the upside of it. So in the future, I think that's certainly the best way to do it. And I think that is a really great way to have a mining, so to speak, of like a token. Currently, because regulations and the regulations aren't specifically dealing with this, because this is like, it's not like a token sale or anything like that, so it's not like a security or anything like that, but still there's just a lot of stuff that's been going on with regulations in general, so we've just been careful with it. And it's not just regulations, it's also we wanted to attract the right people in the beginning. Like if people were just in it to make money from the very beginning, then you might attract a different kind of people who are really passionate about it. So it's possible that any of these tokens could be tradable in the future. But right now, the way we've been doing in Eden Fractal and the way that we're planning to do it in Alien Worlds Fractal, at least for the foreseeable future, is we have a smart contract on EOS that automatically distributes the respect according to the rankings that people get in the breakout rooms. And we have an algorithm that goes by the Fibonacci algorithm that automatically sends about 50% more respect for each higher level. So level 6 gets 50% more than level 5 and so forth. So there's incentive to do more. And then in addition, that smart contract can also instantly send out the same ratio of any other token. And so we give out 100 EOS a week, which is currently worth like $90 or so. And so it's a relatively small amount, but that $90 gets split amongst, say, if there's 15 people who participate, then whoever gets level 6 might get 15 or 20 EOS. Whoever gets level 5 might get 10 EOS. Whoever gets level 4 might get 5 EOS, or whatever. So there is incentive. This system could work with much more. So we could have it where there's $1,000 worth of rewards or $10,000 worth of rewards or any other token. It can be Bitcoin or EOS or whatever. And then you can imagine like that could be a highly effective way to incentivize and reward people for doing work and attract many more people. So that can certainly work. But so far, we've just been doing it basically on a small scale because we're building. We want to just have time to build it without having too many people in there for the wrong reason. And also, we just want to be careful with the regulations to make sure that everybody is safe as we're doing it. But that opportunity is certainly there to be providing a lot more funding, also having it with transferable tokens and so forth. So I've been talking for a while. I know I mentioned a bunch of other stuff earlier too. So I'll maybe stop there, and then interested to hear your thoughts. Can go into any more of those things in detail as well.
Yeah, I say you obviously you can go around all the regulation if you're just using this in a game. So that's kind of the power with the game. You can make the game of the world. It's like yeah, it's just the world in a virtual reality, and you can uh, join a country and join a government and have these fractal circles, and you make your central bank that creates fiat money depending on how much you contribute to your society, and like all of these things can actually be just implemented in this pretend world having fun, and then when it's ready and working, it just unleash it on reality, and then and then we have this upper hand somehow because it's already working. You already have you can already see in the game it's working in the game. Why wouldn't we work in reality? Why can't countries actually, people in countries can actually use this method to decide or make very strong recommendation for the government? This is actually what we want, and you got to start doing what we want. So I really enjoy this happening right now. I'm something that I'm what I've been working, you've been mentioning a tiny bit. I've been working with a different kind of implementation of the fractals, and you have your white paper, and I have some ideas, but actually I'm just playing around. So actually it's just a game for me also. I'm trying different methods, but I started out making it this team goal, which is yeah, it's just like a forum where you automatically get into fractals, and you can vote on every contribution, and that is actually basically it's the framework for how a news channel could look like. You make a, maybe everyone in your group can post one link for a news article, and then you have the voting and you rank the news accordingly, and then you just have a representative, you continue to ranking the news. So basically it's just it's a way of sorting information. Obviously you can sort any information, as well as you also sort the people by trust or whatever you call it. So it's really powerful, and this I would really like to see that program or that software, the team goal software, to make it together with a new team, and to make it actually functioning in open source. So that would be really interesting. But the other software also, the fractal, or what they're called, fractal meet. That software, I have used it a few times, and that's then instead of using Zoom and the breakout rooms, this is actually just an automatic process of making the breakout rooms, and also to have all the voting and so on records. You have the protocols also inside the program, so everything is stored. This program is working quite well. The problem is only that Zoom is much better quality than this. I use open source variant of Zoom. I don't even remember the name right now because it was so long ago, but it's not as good. So I for now I think breakout room is working quite well. Actually, when I did this, there were no breakout room. I think when I did the first one, at least I wasn't aware of the breakout room at the time. It's kind of new. But that program is also like that's actually well, it's not open source because I just have it on my computer, but I'm ready to share it with the community also to use it and see if it's any value to you to implement it in a good way. But that is also a great software, and if we can get that to work, I would love to contribute that to your community as well. And the Wake Woke, this social program, I haven't really started working on it. It's only on a stage of idea. So that's just an idea of how you can use this fractal process in a more easy way. I tried to kind of distill it, like how can you just take out the easiest way to contribute in a fractal way, so it doesn't have doesn't have representatives, for example, in that sense, or actually people don't know they are actually representatives only based on how uh, how many people believe that their contribution is good, but nobody will know if which group they are in or anything. It's like just as simple as possible. People just voting, and the fractal is actually just in the background happening.
Yeah, sounds great. And I'm happy to help connect you with people who are interested. I'm sure many people in the community who I've been interacting with will be interested in the tools that you've been building and the ideas that you've been sharing. They're very fascinating. I'm very interested in it, so I'm interested to learn more and see how we can collaborate. And I'm sure that many other people will. And happy to connect you with them. Um, as far as thanks for explaining more about Team Goal and Wake Woke too. These seem fascinating. I love the experimentation with different kinds of fractal kind of organizations in the app. So
The good thing with this the fractal meet program, it's just made in PHP, and you can just throw it. The file is just basically a few files. You throw it into a folder in your web server, and it's up and running because it doesn't use any databases or anything. It's very easy. So basically, you can install it with just drag and drop, which was kind of the purpose of making it super simple for people to set up their own. DAOs or whatever you want to call them.
yeah, and then there's some similar stuff too. So for example, there's developers in our community who, well, we've mostly been using Zoom as well because Zoom is quite sophisticated and the features work very well for breakout rooms and everything like that. But we've also been working. There's one developer who's been working on integrations with Telegram for a long time to have it so using Telegram for all the breakout rooms and the videos, and that works pretty well, but not as full features as Zoom. And then there are several developers, including the Fractally team, was working on a WebRTC video conferencing solution. Also, Vlad, who's one of the developers who I work with very closely at Eden Fractal, he's been building a WebRTC system. So I don't know how similar that is to it seemed fairly similar to what you were talking about with one of the projects that you're focusing on. I think it was the first one, Fractal Meet, open source video conferencing tool. So there also might be some synergies there. And if you'd like, I can send you the links to any of these tools if you want to check it out. But that's really helpful. And going back to something you said before too, as well, about like how you can start out with games and it can kind of be like its own internal thing, and that could be a great way to build it up and then eventually over time like kind of unleash it on the world, so to speak, so that everybody can benefit from it and people can use it to express how they want, say their town to be run or their country to be run and so forth. I agree. So like we're kind of starting it small and starting it in these smaller communities, and I think gaming is a great way to start it. It's a fun way to start it, and I think gaming can be a great way to keep on promoting it in the long term too. But there's a lot of really concerning trends in the world, and I think that the world really needs this, like especially with all the stuff going on with technology and centralization of power and AI and stuff like that. Like one of the reasons why I'm so motivated by this, in addition to it being so rewarding and fun and so exciting, is like these solutions are really needed by the world, I think. And there's only so much we can depend on a centralized solution like Zoom and so forth. So having solutions like Fractal Meet and the WebRTC tools and stuff like that, that's also really important as well. So just want to put that out there. And I agree with what you're saying as far as that. And yeah, I've been thinking of kind of like a battery, like we're kind of working together, charging our battery, charging of all this potential energy and getting our systems working. And now the system that we had after working on it at Eden Fractal for about a year, and also the Genesis Fractal for about a half year before then, and all these different communities, like the tools are pretty close to being ready for like mainstream adoption, I think. And there still is a hurdle of trying to explain it. We're still working on a welcome guide. I've also been thinking about all sorts of other mobile games that people could do, like say competitions in real life, like at a yoga class, people can compete doing stuff like who can do the best yoga moves and stuff like that. And still just like games that can get people introduced to it. So I'm thinking a lot how we can expand this so that everybody can benefit as much as possible, have a lot of fun, and then also get these tools to empower communities so that communities can cooperate and come to consensus and figure out the best way to uh, govern themselves and be able to set up better societies and better towns and so forth. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I agree with what you said there, and the tools that you have been building and the ideas you've been sharing, I think, can play a really key and pivotal and really helpful role in that too. So, and there's a lot of synergies between the tools that we've been building and many of the developers here have been building too. Personally, I'm very concerned about the world and the breakdown of society I see in a lot of places, and yeah, I'm very concerned, and it's one of the things that drives me so much to build these. And I mostly focus on, like, it's not something we talk about so much, like the problems in society at the meetings, and we could and we do sometimes here and there, and it comes up. But I mostly try to make it, fun and stuff like that, and focus on that. But
Yeah,
sort of behind also all the fun stuff is also like doing that for a reason that I feel like society could break down. We're very lucky and fortunate that society has been working so well for most of my life as well. It hasn't been as well for other people, but at least where I've been living in America, it has. But I'm concerned about tyranny, anarchy, all sorts of stuff like that in this new world that we're living in of both digital centralization and technology and all this exponential change. And I see a lot of very concerning trends. So that's something that I am quite aware of and think about every day. And then many other people in the community do as well too. That's also one of
yeah,
that book, More Equal Animals, which has been a foundational document for many people. That's the book that Dale Narmer wrote that kind of inspired a lot of Eden. That has a very insightful overview of many of the political problems in the world, and also solution
yeah,
too, which the main solution he had was fractal democracy, fractal cooperation.
yeah,
But yeah, especially after reading that, and then many other things lately, it has become something I think about often, and many other people in the community as well.
yeah. Well, I guess I've been active with this. I started politically, so I'm already blacklisted by by all governments, I guess, by this time. So it's kind of smart not to make a project like this too political either, because then you get in trouble for that reason, and I guess in a way. So I think that's why I also like the gaming approach so much, because it's seemingly very innocent and harmless for like the power that be. Then they won't be so afraid of some games. So
Yeah,
it's interesting. Mm,
it makes it more fun and it's more lighthearted. And also too, I mean, my perspective has been like nobody should feel threatened about this because in the benefit of everybody. And people
yeah,
who don't see it or feel threatened just don't realize it yet. And there is a lot of that too. Like there's a possibility that some misguided government could come and like attack people, and there is also some risk too because like we're recording meetings and so forth, and so like people who are on these meetings in general, or people just who are involved with Web3, like there are some governments that just think it's a threat, and people face threats of censorship and all sorts of bad stuff that can happen. um,
mm,
but it's something that I mean, it needs to be done, that we need to learn how to cooperate better, and we need leaders
yeah,
who can be brave and also be able to pioneer solutions that help people. And so my thought is like, there's a chance that could get attacked by some misguided government or something like that, but really this is beneficial for everybody. There's nobody in the
yeah,
world who this isn't beneficial for, and it's just a matter of being able to communicate that. And I think the way to communicate that is just to build it and lead by example.
yeah,
Um, like communicate how it helps literally everybody in the world. Like there's nobody who this doesn't help in the world,
yeah,
and um, be very outspoken about that. Or I don't know if outspoken is the right word, but make it clear and tell a great story and make great media. One of the things I'm excited about with these fractal processes is that it's also a collaborative video making process because we're making
yeah,
videos and it can be done locally. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be a video making process. It can be done not recorded, but we're making videos, and then the same process can incentivize video editors and storytellers to
mm,
do editing of the video and make great stories. And
yeah,
so, like, I'm thinking, okay, if we can do it, we can have as much fun as possible, share as many great experiences as possible, while also building tools that empower people and empower communities. Then we can use that to make amazing media, make amazing stories, to make it clear to everybody how this is helpful for everybody.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it,
I totally agree. And in this age of artificial intelligence taking over, also, I think this kind of system is kind of a counterpart to the artificial intelligence, because this is kind of a collective intelligence. When this kind of fractal system can be connected to all like the consumers of all this media, if they are all connected through this underlying fractals, then uh, the function or the algorithm to push content to a broader audience will be created by us instead of machines or the artificial intelligence that actually often are are working on some for some company to spread their or create profit for someone. So this is really a counterbalance, and when this collective intelligence can be manifested, it could be very strong, and it can help us to get the right content to 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 share, especially to make it possible for artists in any field that are new to be able to break through, because you will reach an audience. You will always reach an audience. Today's system is always like you have to be, you need to really be something extra to go through the, to reach out anywhere. You need to really push, you need to be pushed by so many at the same time. But the fractal system actually makes it possible for you to be recognized in your local group, and then slowly you can spread outwards, which I think that's a super powerful thing, and many artists and musicians or whatever will really want to join different kind of art fractals, music fractals, and so on, because it makes it more possible for them to actually reach an audience, and that's a great thing for everyone.
yeah, absolutely. And I think like going at it with a game and lighthearted, it's a great way to do it. And then attracting artists, like there's several artists who are in the Eden Fractal community doing great work, and I'm also thinking of reaching out to more established artists too, like artists who have thousands or millions of followers. Like these are also people we can offer these tools for, when we can make them really simple, so they can say, well, here's something you could use to interact with your fans and your audience and stuff like that. And then that's a way
Yeah.
where it's like, wow, I can meet my favorite band lead singer, and then I can go meet him on a video call, and then we can discuss, and I can go help him out with whatever I can help him out with, and I can earn respect by it, and so forth. Like it brings communities together, so it's so helpful for everybody, for like emerging artists and musicians, and artists and musicians who are more established, and then also like scientists, researchers, people who want to do better research on AI safety or about cancer, or all these different things. Like it can basically be used for everything.
Yeah.
So collective intelligence. I've also been listening to podcasts where people sometimes think about this as like decentralized neocortex and all sorts of interesting ideas. It is like creating cooperative organisms that can be smart and allow people to cooperate in larger scales. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm kind of going off into all sorts of interesting
Hmm.
ideas now, and can brainstorm and think about all these fascinating ideas. But yeah, I
Yeah.
agree though.
This idea, it's the right time for it. I can feel it. I'm always like 20 years too early on everything I do, which is not always the best, because but I've been thinking of this for a long time, and now I feel I see your project, actually see another project mentioning fractal democracy in different contests things, and I think the idea is ready, and it will start happening, and your project, my project, maybe it won't be the project that breaks through fully, but there will be many projects starting using this method. So basically, I think the most important job that we are doing is just to show people, to promote the idea, and it will eventually be the system of a future society, because it's the only logical option. It's not logical to let the artificial or artificial intelligence to run our life, because it's more logical that the people who are actually uh, living life is deciding about their own future and what they want to do with their life. So it needs to happen, because this idea of a society, this 15 minutes town that's going to be run by artificial intelligence, that in turn is also controlled by the government that is not elected in a in a very democratic way. It's obviously it's doesn't have any potential for doing something for the people. So this idea is so important, and I hope that it can break through by our different games and our different projects. It can break through to the masses that this is so good for everyone. And when it does, yeah, we will have a game changer. I'm pretty sure of that.
That's right, Mikael, and I completely agree. And it'll be a game changer. So, yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% aligned and very excited to work with you there. I'll work with you on this, and so stoked about it. And I think many people in the community will also be stoked to work with you too. Like, there's many people who feel this way, and it's relatively small right now. Like, there's maybe a few hundred people who I know about who are really into it, and now there's a few hundred plus one. But yeah, like you said, like, this is beneficial for everybody, and we can help get the idea out there. I think what we're doing right now will be quite successful. Like, we have a lot of momentum, and so, but yeah, it's about being successful here in these communities as much as we can, but then also building the tools, sharing the education, sharing the ideas that inspire other people to be able to do it. So all communities can benefit from these processes. And there's a part of me that wants to do it as quick as possible too, because we talked about the problems with politics in the world and stuff like that. And I think that things might, we're on exponential trends, and the world might be very different than it is a year from now or 2 years from now, and it might take turns in the wrong direction. And so I'm part of me is trying to go like slowly and sustainably to make sure we're growing the right way, but also at some point soon we have to start growing a lot more and sharing it with many other people. And I think it's almost ready to do that too. And I think that your tools and your work, it seems like a lot of that is it can be very helpful in a lot of the stuff you've been doing for a while. It's built already, and a lot of your ideas, I think that these can be big parts that can help us bring it to the next level as well. I hope current communities doing it, and help in the next year or two, maybe there can be millions of communities who are cooperating with these processes.
Yeah, really good. Really good to have this conversation. I'm really happy. Thank you very much for taking the time. So let's talk sometime soon.
Okay, excellent. Well, looking forward to it, and thank you very much. You're very welcome, and I appreciate it, and I've enjoyed it too. So thanks, Carl.